What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my breakdown of the Ginnungagap and Attuned Nino banner. So we did know that Ginnungagap was coming up on a banner because she was a Tempest Trial boss and she's a colorless dagger cavalier with Arcane Void as the Arcane Dagger, and of course I'm going to be making a full video going over the best users of it and the builds that you can run with this Arcane weapon. So Arcane Void does give you minus on special cooldown, and instead of combat, if her HP is at or above 25%, then you can get +5 to all of these stats, and you can debuff the opponent for even more stats in the combat, and this is essentially going to be the sabotage effect in the combat. So it is similar to the sabotage status that we have seen, but this is going to be in the combat. So what it basically does is that it checks for the highest debuff on each stat on the enemy and the foes that are within 2 spaces of them. Then it pretty much does that in combat debuff. So you want to run this weapon with units and with allies that can debuff the enemies heavily, and of course inflict them with other status effects like sabotage status, panic status and stuff like that. So it is going to be helping you with those kinds of units, and then you also get the guaranteed follow-up attack and also special cooldown charge +1 on both your attacks and the enemy's attacks. So this is going to be helping a lot of the dagger units just trigger lethality a lot easily. So having the special charges built in this Arcane Dagger is pretty nice, and of course Ginnungagap is going to be getting an exclusive skill to go along with this in her Ruler of Nihility. So at start of turn she can inflict -7 attack and defense debuff and the Discord status and flash status on the nearest foes within 5 spaces, and then on the foes that are within 2 spaces of them. So it is going to be a splash effect, which is going to be a lot better than something like Young Orchestral, for example. So like I said, you need to have the debuffs with Arcane Void, and that's what Ruler of Nihility does for her by inflicting the attack and defense debuff and also inflicting the Discord status. And inflicting the flash status is going to be absolutely amazing for something like Aether Raids defense, because you can just have her on your Aether Raids defense and make it really annoying for the enemy if they don't really have any kind of null counter disrupt tank. And then you can also debuff the opponent in the combat with the skill for -5 attack and defense. And if you have an offensive special, then you can actually get -1 special cooldown jump right before your first attack. So it is kind of similar to what we have seen before on Rally Spectrum, on Diamant, and of course on Brave Tiki, who started this. So having this kind of special jump is going to be really helpful because lethality is already 3 cooldown special with Arcane Void, and with the special jumping it becomes 2 cooldown special. So you just need Ginnungagap to double something so that she can trigger lethality on her double, and that is going to be easy with the special charges that she has got with her weapon. Of course, this is assuming that the opponent does not have any kind of guard effect or tempo effect, which would definitely stop her from triggering lethality. So Ruler of Nihility is definitely a pretty good slot B skill. Kind of wish that it gave her the null guard effect, because it is an effect that is hard for any unit to get and, you know, outsource, and of course for cavaliers. But still, this is a pretty good skill that does have good synergy with her arcane weapon, and she does come with lethality, which is amazing for any kind of dagger unit. And she also has Fire Flood Boost 3, which is going to be giving her the guard effect so that she can be a lot more annoying and try and survive to trigger lethality on her double. And we already know her stats because she was a boss in Tempest Trial, so she does have very high base attack at base 47 with a super boon, and she's not really all that fast, but still for a, you know, range cavalier, she does have that kind of mixed bulk, so the guard effect can help her. And finally, she has got Fatal Smoke 4, which I think is a bit too late. So what Fatal Smoke 4 does is basically it tries to disable any kind of healing, and it also disables any kind of non-special miracle effect. So you can take example of Legendary Seliph, Brave Seliph, or even the regular Seliph. You're going to be disabling all of those miracles and even the drive miracle effects from you know, Fallen Marias, Summer Ymir and stuff like that. But the thing is that it's a bit too late already, because Brave Seliph is not exactly that kind of meta monster that he used to be, because speed creep is insane, and nowadays he can only double a lot of units because units are hitting like over 100 and 110 speed. So I don't think this is going to be too useful for a lot of units, because slot C is pretty competitive now. We have got a lot of really good options, and I think this is going to be having main use in Aether Raids defense. But a lot of the times you are going to be seeing people use Colorless Feud instead, because as it is going to be ignoring the effects of, you know, Fallen Maria and Summer Ymir, and also just ignoring any kind of support that they might get from a colorless unit. And there are a lot of colorless support units, so I do think that Fatal Smoke 4 is a bit too late at this point. But still, it's a pretty nice skill if you want to disable the miracle effect and then inflict deep wound status and the null miracle status on the target and the foes within 2 spaces of that target. You can try and get all of these skills at the same time, but unfortunately Fatal Smoke 3 is a bit annoying to get. But we do have Summer Freya in the Divine Codes 3, so you can get her and get all of the skills of Ginnungagap at the same time. And I hope that they release Fatal Smoke 3 on like a Grail unit, just like Panic Smoke 3s. The second unit from this banner is going to be Isadora, so it's a bit of a Blazing Sword banner as well, which I really like. So Isadora is here as a Lance Cavalier and not as a Sword Cavalier. And as we have seen many times with many of these Lance Cavaliers, the competition is so much that they try and make these Lance Cavaliers a bit more supportive, and that's pretty much what she's trying to do with her Guarding Lance. So this is a 16 might preferred weapon, which gives her minus on special cooldown, and if any kind of rally or movement assist skill is used, then you can give herself and the target ally +6 buff to their attack, speed, and defense, and you also give yourself and them bonus doubler status and the foe penalty doubler status. So this is really good for stat stacking, and because of the support that she provides, she can definitely be a pretty good support unit in something like Aether Raids offense, or just for the in-game content, because she can provide you the visible status effects, and at the same time she can run the Snag 4 skills, or even run the new Ruse 4 skill so that you can disable the Brattle Catria teams. So that is something she can do, and also run Infantry Speed Tactic at the same time to give out another status effect. And if you have any kind of unit with a Prime skill, then this is going to be really helpful getting those visible status effects. And you don't really have to have the highest attack to get the bonus doubler, which you have to do with Legendary and Young Eliwood. And even if bonus doubler status is going to be getting neutralized by something like a ploy status, even then you're going to be having the foe penalty doubler effect, which is going to be helping you, just get more stats. So overall, a pretty nice support unit, and I really love what they've done with her. And then for herself in the combat, she's able to get +5 to all of her stats, and also has the full null follow-up effect built in, and she also gets damage reduction on foes' first attack by 40%. So it's decent combat effect, but I think she's a lot more useful for her support than for her combat. And she does come with reposition, attack speed clash 4, and also the tier 4 version of attack defense snag, which is going to be really amazing for smiting your units into the enemy lines in something like Aether Raids offense, like I said, and inflicting the enemy with the sabotage status. So overall, I do like Isadora for the status effects that she can give, but just keep in mind that she doesn't really get an extra action after using her assist compared to someone like Legendary Crom or even Ninja Heather, which we recently received. So Isadora is going to be using her action if you're going to be using her to provide the support to your allies. Still a pretty nice Lance Cavalier, and I do like what they've done with like Mycin and Isadora and Noah that we have gotten this year, just giving supportive effect. And then we have Harken. So we don't really have a 4-star focus unit on this banner, and Harken is not a demote. They're definitely not going to be demoting someone with Precious Soul 4. So he's a sword infantry unit, and he does come with Troubling Blade as a dual phase brave weapon with 11 might, and this gives you -1 special cooldown, so Bonfire becomes a 2 cooldown special, and at start of combat, if his HP is at or above 25%, he can get +5 to all of his stats, and also reduce damage from foes' first attack by 40%, and also get special charges on both enemies' attacks and his own attacks. So this is going to be really helpful for him to trigger Bonfire on his brave attack, and he can even run a higher cooldown special like Ignis, for example. And because he has got special charges and -1 special cooldown, he's going to be an amazing Gale Force user because of that brave effect that he has got in his weapon. And finally, he can warp to the nearest 1 space to the foes that are in 4 spaces of him. So this is pretty much the teleportation that we have seen on Inevitable Death Plus on Hell with her remix. You cannot really snipe someone's backline unit with teleportation like this, but still it's pretty useful to have so that you can teleport and attack the enemy. But of course, you're not going to be having any kind of canto or means of retreating, especially with this kind of kit. And I think that Harken is going to be functioning as a really good Vantage Sweeper because of the dual phase brave effect, and also the fact that he has got special charges built in his weapon with -1 special cooldown, which is really good. And he can also function as a Gale Force unit because of that. So he's going to be pretty flexible, and this weapon is basically better than Male Shez's weapon, but I don't really think that Harken is going to be that fast his skills do suggest that he's probably going to be more physically bulky with Bonfire, Attack Defense Clash 4, and of course Brash Assault 4, which is finally available in the normal summon pool. So that is going to be helping him quad attack in his player phase. But like I said, he's pretty flexible and he can fulfill a lot of different roles and can be useful in, different builds. So that is Harken, and I really like the fact that they've made him really good with this kind of weapon. And the final unit of this banner is going to be Attuned Nino. So attuned units are not going to be released in pair like a lot of people thought. And I guess they're just going to be having the dress of their closest ally as an inspiration. So here, she's kind of inspired by Jafar as a dagger infantry unit, as a green dagger infantry unit. So she has got her preferred weapon in Gondol, and this does give her -1 special cooldown, making stuff like lethality into a 3 cooldown special. And then at start of turn, if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can buff herself and the allies in 2 spaces for +6 attack and speed buff. And then in the player phase, or if the enemy is ranged, then she can get +5 to all of her stats. And she basically has a better Blade Tome effect built in this weapon. The reason why I say it is better Blade Tome is because not only you get extra attack based on the total visible buffs that you've got on yourself, but also along with the allies that are within 3 spaces of you. So if the enemy has got the Dull skill or a Lull skill, you're not going to be losing all of your firepower, which is a problem for a lot of the Blade Tome users. And unlike a Blade Tome, it not only just gives you the attack, but also gives you speed, defense, and resistance based on 50% of X. And X is going to be the highest total bonuses that are among yourself and the allies in 3 spaces. So for example, if you've got +6 visible buff to all of your stats, then Nino is basically going to be able to get +24 attack in the combat, and also gets +12 to her speed, defense, and resistance. So this is basically a better Blade Tome, not only giving you the firepower, but also the extra stats, and not really affected by the Dull or the Lull skills of the enemies. And then she can also get 30% damage reduction on foes' first attack, including the brave hits. So we have recently seen these kinds of damage reduction skills have the damage reduction even against the brave hits, and Nino is definitely going to be one of them. And finally, she can restore 7 HP to herself after the combat. So this is a pretty nice weapon, but her exclusive skill is definitely what makes her even better. And she does come with Draconic Aura, Flash Sparrow, which is gonna be a pretty good skill to trigger lethality with, and also comes with the tier 4 version of Speed Defense Tempo, which is easily one of the best options for so many of the infantry units, especially ranged physical units, because they're able to get the tempo effect, which allows them to get the null guard effect and also just nullifies any kind of, special acceleration of the enemy, so they're not going to be eating like a steady breath special when they're trying to attack any kind of enemy. And they also get the damage reduction halving that we have seen before on physical null follow-up. And null follow-up is pretty easy to outsource at this point, so you can try and get the tempo effect with this and also, shred through the damage reduction of the enemy, which is going to be pretty nice. And then she has got her Slotsy skill, which is an exclusive skill in Fanged Ties. So this skill at start of turn, if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, does give her the +1 movement status and also the Canto 1 status, which is amazing and definitely reminds you of, Yuri. But she's not going to be having Foul Play as the assist for the utility, and this does occupy her Slotsy, so she can only run something else. And then it also functions like a better Time Pulse, where if her special cooldown is at max, then she gets -2 special cooldown at start of the turn, and if it's at 1 less than its maximum value, then she can get -1 special cooldown. So this is pretty good for pre-charging specials, but this is not really something that we've seen on Wind Tribe Claude. I've seen many people misunderstand this, but keep in mind this is definitely nothing like Wind Tribe Claude. She's basically going to be having a better time pulse to pre-charge her specials, and of course trigger lethality a lot easily with the tempo skill and the flash sparrow that she has got in her slot A. And because of being an attuned unit, she does come with Fleeting Echo as the X scale, which you can inherit to only the range units, I think, because this is from the family of the remote skills looking at its icon. So this is basically going to be giving you +2 speed in the player phase, and also gives you 30% damage reduction on foe's first attack. So if you stack up remote skill, Brash Assault 4, and Fleeting Echo, then you can pretty much get 65% damage reduction on any kind of range unit, which is going to be pretty nice for their survival. But Then again, we have a lot of damage reduction piercing nowadays, so it's not really all that insane, but still can be helpful to many of the units, and I'll go over a lot of the units, once we confirm that this is locked to the range units, and I'll be covering that in my banner review. So that is going to be Attuned Nino, who's going to be functioning as a pretty good ranged nuke because of the extra movement that she can get, and because of the Blade Tome effect in her weapon, she's going to be having a lot of attack. So she's going to be a really annoying unit to face because of the damage reduction that she has got, which is going to be helping her with the survival. And then she has got the tempo and the flash barrow. So she's going to be triggering lethality or any kind of special really very easily with this kind of kit. So that's the attuned unit, and we do see her stats here. We don't really know her super boons or super banes yet, but we do know that she's got 44 base attack and 47 base speed. And as you can see, she does have the visible buffs from her weapon. And we also have Will as the instant 3-star 4-star demote from this banner. And they're gonna be just having the final chapter of book 7 here. So Will is gonna be available in the 3-star 4-star pool, and he's an infantry colorless archer as we have seen. And I don't think that he's gonna be available in any kind of quest, because usually when they show us the instant demote unit in these trailers, it means that they're probably not going to be part of any kind of quest. So it is going to be quite hard for you to try and summon for him. And looking at his sprite, I don't really think that he has got an inheritable weapon. It might be a preferred weapon because I've cross-referenced his sprite weapon with all of the inheritable weapons that we have gotten. I cannot really tell that he has got a preferred weapon or not, seeing the combat that they've shown in the trailer, because they are using a 3-star Will here, not a 5-star Will. So I hope that it turns out to be a preferred weapon in the best case scenario. Otherwise, he's probably going to be having an inheritable weapon, just like other instant demotes. And we also have Fargus as the Grandeur Battle unit from this batch, and he's going to be an axe infantry unit. And again, looking at his sprite, it does not seem like he has got an inheritable weapon. We don't really have any kind of inheritable weapon with that kind of sprite. It looks more like the Silver Axe sprite from FE7, so maybe he has got some kind of preferred weapon, I hope, which is not really all that far-fetched for a Grandeur Battle unit, at least, compared to an instant demote. So again, hope that he gets a good preferred weapon, because we've got so many axe infantry units, and he will need that preferred weapon to stand out. So overall, this banner is pretty solid when it comes to the fodder that they've got, and also in terms of the unit strength, but keep in mind that we're going to be getting a double OC banner at the end of this month that is probably going to be having 1 legendary and 1 mythic unit, and then we're going to be entering into book 8 next month. And December does have a lot of seasonal banners with Christmas banner, New Year banner, so that is something you can also look forward to. And this banner does have 2 sparks, so you can try and get the guaranteed summon for Rearmed Ginnungagap or for Attuned Nino, or for even the other units present on this banner, which are really good themselves. So let me know what you think about this banner in the comment section down below, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as ascended units. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.